I'm watching the some of the student protests going on right now, with the pro-Palestinian students and the heavy riot cop presence and often the violent dispersal of these protesters who don't seem to be doing anything violent or disruptive themselves, by these thuggish riot cop guys in heavy gear. And honestly, it's causing me to have Charlottesville flashback. Now I know that this is not probably most of those pro-Palestinian student protesters would like to hear, but that's okay. They, in this instance, they've been brainwashed, just like most everybody else, about what actually happened at Charlottesville. So, it's a shame that their reaction would be to say, don't compare us with you, but so it goes. I am making the comparison because I see the comparison. It is there. It's plain as day. And what strikes me is that in both cases, you had blatant violation of a group's God-given and Constitution-mandated freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. You had the riot cops ride in and violently disperse the people who were there with tear gas. I can say it happened to me. I got tear gas blasted in my own face, and I wasn't even there to protest. I was just there more or less as an observer, a sympathetic observer, but in essentially a an independent journalist, and I saw what took place firsthand, and I saw what was done, the mischief that was done afterwards by the media and their their false depiction of what happened. I'm not going to go into all of this again. I've written about it extensively on my Substack page, and I've given some interviews about this, and I just if you want to hear me just discourse in greater detail about my experiences at Charlottesville and what actually happened at Charlottesville, as opposed to what they tell you happened at Charlottesville, then I invite you to just type in my name and Charlottesville, and you'll find some things that'll hopefully be of interest if you're watching this channel and you're still not in the know about the reality of what took place at Charlottesville. So I don't expect any sympathy or any sense of camaraderie or solidarity from the student protesters, but nevertheless, I myself feel it towards them in a lot of ways, because what I see happening in their situation, is essentially very, very similar, except it's happening on a much wider scale. Charlottesville was just one instance. It was it was what indicated that this mostly online group that was then called the alt-right, that there really wasn't going trying to own the streets or trying to meet up IRL and show your strength in an IRL sense wasn't the route to take. So, and I think lessons have been learned about that and about a lot of other things since then. But these student protests are happening on a much wider scale, and I'm seeing the same kinds of tactics being used against these college kids, mostly college kids. I guess there's some others amongst them. I see them assembling, and whatever you think of their perspective on things, I think they have the right to assemble. I think that's guaranteed in the Constitution. As I said, I believe it is guaranteed. It's enshrined in the Constitution, but it's guaranteed by God Himself. So we have the right to free speech. We have the right to assemble. That's all that they're doing. They're not being disruptive that I have seen. They're not behaving as the Antifa did at Charlottesville. There are probably plenty among these protesters who call themselves Antifa. I'm guessing, but the shoe is definitely on the other foot. Even so, you don't see these people instigating violence the way that for Antifa it was just their go-to, their bread and butter. It was just what they did. They instigated violence against groups or people that they thought the people that they didn't like, of course, the media never talked about that. They represented Charlottesville as if the aggression were from the Unite the Right people, from the so-called alt-right types, but it very much was not. And what I'm seeing in the videos that I have watched of these protests that are happening on many college campuses now across the country, including in the heart of the big what someone once called I mean, it's the Big Apple, but someone once called the Big Bagel. I can't remember who coined that one, but right in the heart of New York City, Columbia University, a lot of huge protests are happening, and these protesters are being met with shows of force from riot police. And I was watching a video of a protest that was taking place at University of Texas in Austin, and the protesters had an interesting chant. Of course, a lot of the chants are kind of corny and so forth. That's why it's not exactly my scene. It's not exactly my bag. Even at Charlottesville, I just sort of got caught up in the middle of it because I saw injustice happen. I saw these riot police thugs geared up with helmets and batons come marching in and shutting things down unlawfully, and I was incensed, and I put myself in the middle of it at that point, but I wasn't. It wasn't my thing from the start. But the way these protesters cleverly responded to the riot cop, to these cops showing up in riot gear, whether they're state police or National Guard, or exactly who they are, or where they came from, or who exactly sent them. Of course, there's all sorts of reports of police forces being IDF trained, either going to Israel to be trained in Israel, or being trained by IDF over here on these shores. So there is definitely some connectivity there between these different law enforcement bodies, federal, state, and international. But these kids were chanting, "There is not a riot here. Why are you in riot gear? There is not a riot here. Why are you in riot gear?" And I was like, yeah, that's good. That's a good point. I mean, they come in the middle of again a a full throated, passionate protest, but not one that shows any signs of being violent. They're the ones coming in with batons and with you know geared up with helmets and body armor and all this stuff, and you know it's like they know there's going to be trouble once they start doing the things that they're intending to do, that either they've been commanded to do, or I mean, I guess there's obviously been an edict from on high saying we can't let these protests stand. You know, uh, First Amendment be damned. We've got to break up these protests by whatever means necessary, and and then they come in the midst of all of these people, and none of them are armed. You know, most of them are 120 pound college students. And yeah, another point that's been made that is really galling to me is I remember during the summer of hate, the summer of 2020, the summer of the mostly peaceful riots, and those, oh God, those images of riot police coming to an actual riot. In this case, there actually was a riot happening, and the videos of these riot cops taking a knee, bowing down, taking a knee in front of these rioters uh, who are busy burning down the cities. But you don't see that behavior now. And that tells you something. That tells you that in 2020, the establishment was on the side of the rioters. And now, uh, these protesters have gone off script. They're leftists mostly, if not almost entirely, but they've gone off the neoliberal reservation, uh, because the neoliberal, neoconservative, just establishmentarian perspective on this conflict is to fully back Israel, no matter what they're doing, even if what they're doing is awful, even if what they're doing is indiscriminately bombing cities, killing thousands of civilians, withdrawing or keeping food and water from a population, which is a war crime. That's something that nevertheless the establishment is very much behind. And so these protesters have gone off script, and they've taken up for this cause that is not what they're meant to be. Uh, this is that they're not following directions. In 2020, they were following directions. They were saying the establishment, the corporate elite, were saying, hey kids, hey everybody, hey urban dwellers, go riot, go burn shit down, and spread chaos. They were the foot soldiers of the establishment, even though they didn't think of themselves as being such. But now they've turned against that same establishment, and they're taking the brunt of it, just the same way that they're getting, uh, um, like I saw some disabled protester get his walker taken away. The riot cops came in and grabbed away his walker, and picked him up, to take him into their cattle car. I don't know why they picked that. I mean, they just decided to do something that was extra, just extra non optics friendly, and just take out this disabled guy. But that was what was happening in Charlottesville. I don't think there was anybody disabled there, but they were hitting us with pepper spray. They were not knocking us down. Kicking our legs, knocking us down. There were fewer of us there actually. Facing off against these riot cops. Like I said, it was happening much more in miniature. And then they were, well, I won't, as I said, I won't recapitulate everything that happened at Charlottesville, but please do look up my stuff and either read about it or hear me talk about it, because I was an eyewitness. I saw what happened, and it's not what the media told you happened. But now that's spread to much of it's spread to the left side of the political spectrum, not the establishment left, not the neoliberal left, but a side of an independent minded left. Apparently, that they're at least independent on this issue, and now they're getting the Charlottesville treatment. So welcome aboard, guys.